All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us His truth, peace, and salutations to the hopeful elect. Those of you making your bodies a living sacrifice each and every day for this ministry and for the brethren, okay? My name is Malak, and I'm back with another lesson in all truth and sincerity. And, the question that comes about, when we go through trials and the so-called tribulations of this life is whether it be for our overcoming or for our strengthening up, you see. And just as Yahweh Shai had certain battles that he had to conquer, before he could fulfill certain points of his ministry, right? And, him being the chief example, we also have other examples, okay? Just like when David, his first introduction in the story was overcoming Goliath, which, that trial, ultimately, just the thought of it could be something very traumatic, all right? But ultimately, the Lord was training him up, okay, through his youth, you see, to be able to overcome that battle, right? So when we look at the things that happen within our life, we ought to ask ourselves, is this trauma or was it just training? Okay, perspective is everything when it comes to trials that we go through, okay? Us being seers, okay, prophets, men of the Lord, well, we can't miss the bigger picture, okay? Now let's go over here and read this. All right, this is Romans chapter 8, verse 28, and it reads, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai." Okay, all these things work together. They work for the good of us, okay? The things that may seem bad, when we eat the Passover dinner, there's a certain portion of bitterness. When we eat that dinner, there's a certain feel of the bitter that comes with this. But ultimately, the bitters, they're for the strengthening of the body. They're more on an antioxidant side, right? A cleansing, if you will. And so are the things within our life, even though, we might fall, okay? Put that fall, those scratches, those gouges in the body, right? They become wounds that ultimately, thicken up the skin, okay? Makes it so if we were to be touched in that same position, we might, to the effect that we might not be so harmed, okay? And that's the same way with this ministry, okay? We've gone through certain things, all right, but it's ultimately for the good, for the strengthening of us, right? Let's read this again. Romans 8 and 28, it says, "And we know that all things work together," all right? This whole thing, it works together for good to them that love Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, to them who are called according to his purpose. Okay, so yeah, we have a purpose, a very specific purpose, okay? Let's get this word purpose, matter of fact. Prothesis, okay? It says prothesis, specifically the showbread in the temple, right? The setting forth, okay, the showbread. It's not too much on here. Let me just read it in the etymology, okay? Yeah, purpose, intention, and aim, a goal, proper function for which something exists. Okay, we have a proper function. We have a very specific lot to fulfill. Okay, a very specific lot. Right? So, the Lord, the Lord very much needs us to be, made in a certain way. Okay, crafted in a very specific way that's according to His will. Okay. And yeah, that manifests itself by showing us, or by going through the things that we go through, okay? Losing certain things that we, may have. And it may even be for a season, or it may be for, the rest of this thing, right? For the rest of your journey, right? We may lose certain things. We may not be able to have certain things, right? We may deal with infirmities, right? But as the scriptures say, the grace is sufficient enough for thee, okay? Considering this ministry, we've received grace, you see. Matter of fact, let's get that. It's that 2 Corinthians, 12 and 9. It says, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee. Okay, what does that word sufficient mean? All right, that grace, what is Paul meaning when he says the grace is sufficient? Okay, to suffice, to be enough, to defend, all right, to be satisfied, right? So yeah, these things that we go through, we ultimately, at the end of the day, we're still here. All right, you still in the midst of the presence of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. You still listening unto the men of the Lord. You still believe in this message, okay? And that's enough. That's just enough. For what? To receive everything, man. That's just enough to receive everything. That's just enough to be healed. We have just enough, to be defended in the days to come, which that's this faith, that's this belief, that's this exhortation and this brotherhood that we have to access unto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. That's what we have, so that's sufficient. Okay, that's sufficient for us. You see, it says, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. It says, most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Hamashiach may rest upon me. Right? So, yeah, we have to ask ourselves, this weakness that we've been given, well, that's ultimately to strengthen us up, okay, to be able to bear certain things, all right? There's only two ways to lighten that burden off of us. It's by making it, either taking it off of us or making us stronger, right? There's only two ways to level up, man, or it's just one way to level up for real, But this is, matter of fact, let's read this. I've done quoted this twice, so let's just go ahead and get it. This is 2 Corinthians 4:1. It says, therefore, seeing as we have this ministry, we have received mercy, we faint not, right? So yeah, we've received this ministry, okay? This is us receiving mercy. This is an extension of mercy toward us, you see? And we ought to not faint. We ought to not give up, because that's sufficient for us. This is enough, man. This is enough, Hakim, right? We have just enough. That's why the scriptures say don't worry about, worry about the troubles of today, because all the troubles of today, you got bills, you got, debts you need to pay off, right? You got, priorities that need to be attended to, right? Whether it be, your woman, whether it be your children, all right? People at your job, deadlines, right? All these things that need to be tended to, right? Car maintenance, your home maintenance, right? You got to do this and that, the hustle and bustle, right? But ultimately, I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm not even gonna lie. Lord willing, the Lord, bring it back to me. Oh, yeah, the water Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Ultimately, what we what you come to realize is all of those things, all of those quote unquote cares of this life, that can be taken away within one day, right? The power grid shutting down. You think you're gonna be worried about paying bills, right? You think you're gonna be worried about pleasing your having to come in to work early? No, man. It's gonna be up. It's gonna be time to time for judgment, really. You see, and that's what we're looking forward to, right? And one day things can change drastically, man. You see, this bitch could be back on lockdown. Look, man, this is enough. This is all we need. So yeah, these worries that we have, man, really all of this shit is just an illusion, All of this shit is just an illusion. All right. And now let's read this. I'm gonna jump down later in this chapter. It says, 2 Corinthians 4:17. It says, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment," right? Because this is a moment, man. It feels like a long moment to us, but with the big picture of things, right? This is just a moment, man. This is just a little bit of time, right? This is just a little bit of time, It says, "For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory," right? This little moment that we have, this season that we've been put in, right? Because Esau was set to rule for a little season, but to us, man, it seemed like a long time, man. This nigga been had rulership and power and dominion, right? But it's also been a long time since Yahushua had been back on the earth. You think that the Lord don't want to come back and rule, right? You think that the Lord don't want to judge the enemies. You think the Lord don't want to, smite the those Romans that pierced him. Man, come on. So yeah, this is just a light affliction. This is a little moment, man. Yahushua been waiting. Yahushua's been an example of patience. You see, and he's also been an example of trusting in the process. You see, as we have to be. We need to be ready for that. We need to be ready for trials and tribulations and being rejected, all right, so that we could be accepted, right? We have to go through both. We have to go through it, man, to get to it. You see? So when we consider these things that we go through, man, understand, is that a trauma, that traumatic experience, or is it training, Is it something that's training you up, whether it be in a way of teaching you a lesson, all right, whether it be in a way of getting you used to losing something, right? You fasting from it, right? You got to consider these things. It's all about perspective, man. This is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 11. It says, "My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary at his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father, the son in whom he delighteth," right? So, yeah, the Lord will correct us. And he chastens his children, man. The Lord, he'll correct you. And he'll instruct you to make sure that you're ready, that you're trained up to be able to overcome, man. And that's how we have to look at things. That's necessary in this ministry. You see, it's very necessary in this ministry. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. I want to go ahead and close out. I'm gonna give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto my heavenly Father Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakwadash. Okay, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us his truth. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.